if we're building products as a dev engineering team, before that product can make its way into production, there's involvement from a bunch of other people that have to sort of come in and then check compliance, regulatory stuff. If AI builds software that my application is going to use, and within that software, there's an exploit that someone takes advantage of, and we give away, I don't know, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of records of personal information, who's responsible there? Is it me or the AI?
What would you say are maybe the top 2 mistakes people make in terms of entering tech?
The first one is that people lack consistency, right? Unfortunately, what I've seen is that people will get, roped into the tech space because they like what they see. And then they'll pick up a course or two on Udemy. And then 3 months down the line, that course is half finished and there's nothing to it anymore. The more common mistake is that people think the only way to break into tech is by being a software engineer or a developer.
From coding all the way to automotive content, today we've got Bongani, your favorite social media bae. But before we introduce him, I'm here once again with my co-hosts.
Back again, guys, with yet another episode where we decode the digital matrix.
Yes, sir.
And we're back with the guest, of course. And joining me today, of course, is Mpodagada.
Welcome back, guys. Let us know in the comment section what you expect to hear from today's episode. Let's see if you guess it right. We'll look at your timestamp, and whoever guesses it right, we'll give you a prize, a very exciting prize to come and see us live in our next recording. Welcome, Bongani.
Thanks for having me. That was such a nice introduction. I think
Most welcome.
every time I walk into a room, that's what I want to hear.
Feels like the wrestling introduction, right? Very dramatic.
Hey, music and all. How you doing, man?
No, I really can't complain. It was a hell of a week. It was brutal, but we're still standing.
As you should be. So, I mean, as you know already, this is a tech-based podcast, I digest. But we'd like to strike a fine balance between getting to know you as a software engineer and also the man behind the software engineer, because you're not just a man in tech, you're a man as well. So if you could give us a rough overview of what it is you do in tech and outside of tech, and we can just dive into that.
All right, cool. Yeah, it feels like an interview. I'm joking. But yeah, I go by Bongani. Not too old. I've been around a few years on this earth, and it's been quite an interesting journey for a multitude of reasons. I think my career being one of them, and my relationship being another pillar of my life. I've sort of had to find an identity and navigate life through those two things sort of holding me down. But starting with the career, I'm a software engineer by profession. It's something I fell in love with when I was a kid, actually, if I'm being completely honest with you. The reason why I fell in love with software engineering is because I remember seeing a car drive itself in its earliest stages of autonomous driving. I was like, I want to learn how to do this, right? And then out of that, I went to school for it. Actually went to Belgium campus. It's a really small institution out there in Pretoria North. Studied my Bachelor of Computing, did my honors in computing. And then shortly afterwards, I went into the consulting space. And at the current moment, I'm in the banking sector, building some cool client-facing apps. And at the same university is where I met my wife. We got married last weekend. So that's why it was there.
Congratulations, man.
Congrats.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'll take donations.
For the honeymoon.
Or donate blankets.
Yeah. No, but besides that, listen, I'm in love with cars. In my sort of 5 to 9 after my 9 to 5, I'm creating car content. I have a YouTube channel where I host basically all sorts of car fixtures. We do car launches. I do car reviews and that sort of stuff. So that's sort of where I find myself in those 3 spaces between work, home, and my passion being cars.
Feel free to name your YouTube channel.
Oh, yeah. Shameless, very shameless plug. It's called Sante Fire Motoring. Check us out on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. Awesome.
So would you say cars, that's like sort of your first love and kind of what I guess got you into tech?
100%. Yeah, actually, in my head growing up, I thought I'd be like a robotics engineer, helping build these cars. But life had a different, sort of journey for me to follow. But yeah, it's like something. It's an itch that I've never been able to scratch away.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by the way these things work. They're marvels of engineering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite interesting, especially because now we're in an age where I guess software engineering is becoming such a huge element or pillar within just the automotive industry. I mean, years back it was just very purely mechanical, and
Yeah.
now you know we've got like Tesla and all of these also just cool cars that have a lot of tech just integrated into it. So yeah, I think you really found the best of both worlds. Yeah, so that's great.
No, absolutely. It's actually quite interesting to see how quickly car technology is evolving, right? When was it? I think it was 2 weeks ago. We spoke about this offset. I attended the launch of the all-new Volvo EX90, and it's an all-electric car, which is pretty much, not a shocker these days. We get EVs all the time, but it has this really cool piece of tech sitting on its roof. It's a black puck. I don't know if you'll be able to overlay this on the video, but it's called a LiDAR scanner. What a LiDAR scanner is able to do is that it's able to create a 3D sort of processed image of its own environment, and it's the eyes for the car, not necessarily a camera, but it's like smarter because it gets the image, but also the depth. It's able to pick up how far something else, and then it maps this out with like many sort of data points, and it uses that to be able to navigate certain spaces. And they were speaking about how, within the next 5 to 10 years, all their cars are going to be launched with this technology,
Standard.
effectively allowing these cars to be able to see the environment around it, not just from a sensor perspective, not just from a camera perspective, but this advanced technology, which will then enable these cars to be fully autonomous. In fact, the technology exists right now. It's just that regulation it limits these cars. You can't have a fully autonomous car on South African roads.
So does Tesla also have the same technology embedded into it, this black part that you speak of?
Yeah. But Tesla have managed to sort of hide it in a way that makes it look really cool. But it's not the exact same technology. I believe Tesla uses an array of cameras and not just LiDAR. I think it uses radar as well. But, look at this, two different manufacturers with the same goal, but different implementations. And ultimately, the backbone of it all is really, really good software.
Very interesting. As a software engineer in this country, South Africa, what are some of the challenges that you experience? Take us through a week of being a software engineer. What is it that you do and the challenges you experience?
Well, the first one, credit where credit is due. It used to be load shedding. It really used to be load shedding. But I think, on my side, and I'll give you specific context because, like I said, I'm in the banking space. It might be different for someone who's building their own software products or they're consulting for, I don't know, maybe you guys want a website or something like that, right? It would be completely different. But in my case, I find that, the biggest headaches that I have to deal with as a software engineer aren't necessarily the software. It's the administrative effort in making sure that the software that we write is above board and it meets all regulatory specs. Because, within the banking sector, at least, you can't just write code and publish it. You need to make sure that you're not violating any POPI acts. Any personal information that is being transmitted over the network needs to be secured, encrypted, and that sort of stuff. And you'll find that, building a feature itself, quick. Making sure that your feature can make it to production, that's where a lot of the headaches come in, So there's a lot of people management as well, stakeholder management, because you can't do it all alone, and the people that are in the legal team, they deal with these things specifically, so you have to engage with them. And you quickly come to find that going into the space, you think that you're going to be working alone in your own little cocoon with the hoodie on and you're hacking. No, it's a very people facing role, and the higher you go in your career, the more people you get exposed to. So
and like how central are you between like the security team and, like you mentioned, the legal team and all the other teams? Are you guys like the most central role, or which one would you define yourself as?
So I build a product, right? So effectively we build financial management tools, and these live on the banking app itself. And then effectively once we've built the product, we'll then bring in legal, we'll then bring in compliance, we'll then bring in these guys and say, okay, this is what it is we want to do. Are you guys cool with it? And then they'll raise their concerns, and then we'll address certain things, or there's pushback wherever there needs to be pushback. So it's a healthy balance of compromising, but also stating your case and making sure that the thing that you want to see live actually comes alive. Because trust me, for every reason you tell them why this is good, I'll tell you why it shouldn't live. So you must know your story, like know what it is you're building.
Very interesting. I mean, there's lots of young people that are watching out there that are excited about opportunities. What would you say are the current hot opportunities in, the space we're in? I don't want to just stick to maybe cyber or stick to, I think let's open it up in terms of, is it financial tech? Is it health tech? Is it e-commerce? Because people sort of wonder what's the next jackpot in the industry. What are some of the exciting industries, and what are some of the cool stories you've heard of what people are building in those industries?
I would definitely say artificial intelligence. Yeah, and now I'm going to say something, right? It's the thing is, people think AI, and we think it's this really crazy, advanced, we're already 90% there kind of thing. In my honest opinion, my humble opinion, actually, I think AI is only getting started. Like what you've seen so far is impressive, make no mistake. It's really great stuff. If you took this to the 60s, they'd call you a witch, right? But this is only, like, we haven't touched, the tip of the iceberg when it comes to how advanced this technology can get. And I think anybody who positions themselves in a place where they can leverage AI into their existing business practices and models, as well as teaching themselves how to get better at building AI models, is going to be in a really great place in 10 years' time. So, and the reason why I say this is because, think of what industrialization was. We went from sort of scattered operations all over the place to a streamlined series of events that are able to take you from a raw product to a complete polished solution in what would have otherwise taken, a much longer period. And what AI is doing now, and let's take an industry like, I don't know what the industry would be called, but let's say you want to make adverts. Yeah, just simple media, right? You want to make pictures, you want to advertise something. You would have probably had to get a graphic designer who will put this together, and then they shape it up, and then that's your product, and you'll get it in like a day or two. Now you can type in a prompt. You give it an image of your face serum. Let's say you're selling face serums, and you give it an image of that. Tell it, give me this, position this in such a way. How long is that going to take you?
Less than a minute.
And we're only getting started, mind you.
But if that's what you're saying, what are you doing in your industry? Because I think a lot of people are wondering, is it not going to affect people that are coding, people that are building systems? Is it not going to affect everybody? And I guess the question is, what then are you doing to prepare? Because we know now through AI that you can build code.
Yeah.
You can deploy apps. Yeah. And I think obviously that's part of what you do. So what is it that you're doing in your industry to save yourself?
Yeah. So, having seen the code that AI has produced, that's why I'm confident in the fact that we're only getting started, right? And that's to say it can write code, but quite often it's rudimentary, and if it is complicated, there's often a bug and it can't fix it unless you have someone who knows what they're looking for and is able to help it get better. As time develops, yes, it will get better, but I think what AI is going to eventually become is at best a really great assistant to some. Really, really great assistant. So if you were a graphic designer who got business from building like these ads, for example, AI now enables you to do it much quicker. It doesn't necessarily replace you, because it can't, build relationships with people the same way that you can. At the end of the day, I think, a lot of what ultimately makes or breaks a society is the way its people interact with each other. People are the ones with the needs, and out of the engagements with other people, then we can use technology to sort of build things and make them come together. But I don't think the technology exists to replace the people. I think it just enhances the way we interact with one another.
Do you think? Sorry.
That is interesting. I think as it advances more, I think it's going to be able to, of course, interpret better and also just debug better, run tests better. And I think the people that are probably at most risk or most susceptible to any sort of like real change or the harm, quote unquote, I'd say is junior developers or people who are actually just getting into the industry, who essentially when few years from now, what they're essentially brought into the company to do, within that immediate term, you have an AI who can do that on a very basic level, of course. So I think it is going to be an interesting point when we reach that. And so I don't know, man, how do young people, I guess, navigate that when you have people maybe in varsity right now or high school right now, and they do want to get into coding, but there is this kind of inevitable future where AI does make it a bit harder for them to
Yeah.
fully break into the industry unless you're like an intermediary developer or so forth.
Yeah. So now here's the cool thing about what it is I was mentioning earlier. If we're building products as a dev engineering team, before that product can make its way into production, there's involvement from a bunch of other people that have to sort of come in and then check compliance, regulatory stuff. If AI builds software that my application is going to use, and within that software, there's an exploit that someone takes advantage of, and we give away, I don't know, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of records of personal information, who's responsible there? Is it me or the AI? Who must be held accountable?
Oh, it's interesting, so there's no accountability.
There's
that
no
can be traced.
accountability. So now I can use AI to write these things, right?
Yeah.
But I open myself to risk.
Yeah.
And who's the person that has the final say off? And now if this is just me doing this, it's just a small example. A huge corporation that's multinational with billions of records of personal data, financial information, can't afford to take that risk. You can't outsource these type of things to AI, which is why I think it's going to be a great assistance, but I don't think it's taking jobs anytime soon.
Very interesting. I mean, lots of people that want to get into tech ask themselves two questions, which is, do I join a startup? One of those, hey, we're solving the next, and they jump on board. I think a lot of young people want to be the next OpenAI and, all the amazing tech startups we have. And then there's obviously people that join legacy establishments, similar to maybe some of the work that you might have done. What advice would you give a young person out there wondering, do they join a startup and build the next big thing, Facebook, Instagram, or whatever? Or would you say they should join an established place, maybe consult, or maybe, get into a manufacturing plant and work on their systems? What's your thinking regarding that?
So I think startups are great if you want to grow very quickly, but you have an inherent drive within yourself, because you find that startups lack structure. You could be hired as a junior developer and your tech stack might be Java for the API, Angular for the front end. But 6 months into the role, there's 10 of you guys in the company. The CEO goes, listen, we didn't think this through. It's not going to work. We have to rewrite this in a different language. If you have the appetite for that kind of shift, if you have the appetite for a fast-paced environment, by all means, join a startup. You might miss a salary or two, because it is a startup, unfortunately, and that's just how things are.
Or sleep in the office.
Yeah, do you get me? So it's like, if you are up for that kind of adventure and unpredictability, and you have the appetite to grow and to be able to teach yourself, sure, go for it. But it requires you to be honest with yourself, right? Because it is more than what most can handle. I think if you are a bit older in your life and you have a bit more responsibilities, and you're looking for, a bit more structure, something predictable, join an established organization, because there your path will be laid out for you. Things aren't going to just dramatically change at a whim. And if they do, there's a very good reason for it, and it had to be justified at several layers before it got to you. So I think it depends on what it is you're looking for as a person, what it is you have an appetite for, and let that make your decision. My honest advice out of my personal case is, if you're starting off, start off at an established firm. And this is for, I think, a number of reasons. The first being that, these big organizations are going to invest money in you to make sure that you're as ready as you can be for the project that you get placed on. They wouldn't hire you if they didn't think you were competent. And if they did think you were competent, they're going to give you all the rails you need to get better. That's one thing. Number two, your career growth is almost, set out for you. There's established guidelines, KPIs, things that you can follow. And it's sort of like a clear sign, if I get there, 20 kilometers, turn left. That's pretty much what it is. So, it's easier for you to determine where you'll be in the next 5 years. You could grow much quicker, and go much further in a startup, or you could fall flat on your face. And I think it just depends on the appetite that you're willing to
Very
walk in.
interesting take. I think, just looking at obviously some of the biggest startups that have ever been created, Mark Zuckerberg with Meta. I mean, that was him dropping out of college and straight building. But it's very interesting what you're saying, to say the one side is safety, and there is a road you will travel, but it's a road that is normal and known. But on the other side, it could be a roller coaster, where, Facebook is now Facebook, and now it's Instagram, and now it's WhatsApp, and now it's Llama, and whatever the case is. In terms of being a techie, I mean, you see a lot of mistakes that people make. What would you say are maybe the top 2 mistakes people make in terms of entering tech? Young people, even, I don't know, old people entered. Have you ever met like a 40-year-old that's like, I'm no longer going to be a traffic officer, I want to code?
Actually, I have, believe it or not, right? I have. And the gent that I'm referring to, I think he was in his late 30s. The reason why he wanted to get into tech is because he quit his job, started a business, wanted to build a website. They charged him too much money. It's like, I'll learn how to do it myself. In less than 2 months, he had a working website. And I think that's what I love about tech, right? It's like you could learn the stuff anyway, and then you could pick it up and get going. But before we get there, your first question was mistakes that people are making. The first one is that people lack consistency, right? Unfortunately, what I've seen is that people will get, roped into the tech space because they like what they see. And then they'll pick up a course or 2 on Udemy, and then 3 months down the line, that course is half finished and there's nothing to it anymore. And it's so unfortunate because you're in the middle of building a skill. No one's going to be able to take that away from you. Once you get certified in something, it means you know how to do this, and it allows you to be able to do it for yourself and other people, effectively giving you market value. And it's binary. It's either you have value or you don't have value. And halfway through a course, that's not feasible. It doesn't work for anybody, right? That would be the first one. And the second one, I think the more common mistake is that people think the only way to break into tech is by being a software engineer or a developer. Guys, there's so much more to the tech space, and that's not just it, right? I think in order for a software or product to make its way into production where it's used by millions of people, there are many different hats, that get thrown in a bag that contribute to this. I mean, one, project management is a huge deal, right? To be able to organize a bunch of developers as well as, business, the stakeholders on that side, and managing expectations between the two, tracking timelines, deadlines, trading off features for, timelines or the other way around. That's a very real thing in the tech space. And I think the tech space could, gain so much more from getting more qualified project managers in the space. Product owners is another one. Being able to work for an organization and help them properly define what it is they want to build, and working in hand with project managers and the development team to be able to build this product and make sure that we're building the right product. Because the problem is with software is it can be such a rigid thing to move once it gets going. 6 months down the line and you want to change things, it's quite difficult. So having a product owner making sure that you're building the right things, and this is just one of their responsibilities, is an important person to have on the team. Data science is another huge one, right? So, there's the engineering aspect will build the product. But, if you think about it, now here's where data science is so cool. This is a YouTube channel, right? And it's particularly focused in the tech space of things. What are the chances that someone who's not into tech is going to get this video recommended on their page? It's not very high. I mean, if I'm into Kim Kardashian and I see something like this, I'm probably not going to watch it. YouTube is aware of this, right? And the only reason why they're able to know this is because of data science. At this point, YouTube has software that is able to scan through your entire video, pick up the context based on the language, based on the setting, so it can tell, okay, this is a podcast interview kind of thing. And out of all of that, it's able to build metadata, which it then feeds into a machine learning model. Machine learning model is basically a data science built-backed application that is able to make predictions based on the information that you feed it. And it knows that, okay, cool, Bongani likes tech stuff. Based on what I know about this channel, it is a tech-focused channel. Bongani might like this. And then if I do like it, it reinforces that model and it recommends it to other people. So, that's just one example. Your Instagram For You page. Sometimes people complain. They say they look at their For You page and say, I don't know why this stuff came up. You know why that came up. I know the real you. Do you get me? So it's not just software engineering per se that gets you into the tech space. Do your research. Get in there, find out what other opportunities are available to you. And you'll find that maybe it was never supposed to be software engineering that you wanted or should have been doing because you have a higher affinity for something else.
Yeah, I've realized that people actually take for granted the position that they're in now, or whatever career they're in now might not seem tech related, but it's actually very easy to pivot into a tech adjacent industry from where you currently stand.
Exactly.
It just takes like minimal upskilling.
Yeah.
So I wanted to find out from you, someone that's very interested in both software engineering as well as the automotive industry. How do you see yourself merging those two, either now or in the near future?
Sure. It's an interesting one, right? So must I start my own auto trader? I could, right? I could. The thing is, at the current moment, I haven't found a proper intersection between the two, but I have used tech as a wedge to leverage with that gets me exposure in the car space.
Right.
I mean, we're here doing this. There's cameras all around this room. This is going to go to a YouTube page. We're going to create snippets for Instagram, for TikTok, and that sort of stuff. And I follow the same model with my car content, right? I've built an audience using nothing but my phone. It's crazy to think about that, something that fits in the palm of your pocket can get you into rooms you never thought you would be in. And, using that while myself being the person speaking into the camera, articulating myself and sort of getting the points that I want to get across, it gives me the opportunity to sort of grow. So I think I am using tech, but I'm not necessarily coding anything at the moment. But when the need arises, I'm sure we'll find something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for a viewer out there who's not studying tech, but who really wants to get involved in tech and is contemplating how do they get into tech, what coding language should they learn or pick up first? I mean, some people say maybe learn Java. I mean, it's hard, but then it's easier to pick up other languages.
Yeah.
You start there, or start with Python, which there's more opportunities right now within the immediate term. So what coding language would you recommend for a viewer out there who's not currently studying, but who really wants to get involved within the tech space?
So I think that's a solid question, and I think I'll answer it by giving a little bit of context. You can think of coding languages the same way you think of the languages that we speak. Some languages are spoken all over the world, and others are spoken in a very localized region. It doesn't make sense to learn Mandarin living in KZN, and it doesn't make sense to go speak Zulu in Texas. Each of these languages, they all have a basic structure. The same way there's a Zulu word for me, a Xhosa word for table, a Tswana word for whatever. There's, all of these things can communicate. It now differs in what it is you're trying to communicate in. So if you're looking into getting into data sciences, for example, Python would be my first recommendation. It's lightweight, it's optimized for that sort of stuff. If you're looking at building web applications, for example, like websites, then I would say your HTML and CSS with JavaScript, because JavaScript has been optimized for that. If you're looking to build something that's going to live longer than you will, Java, C#, but ultimately it boils down to having an idea of where it is you want to fit in first, and using your idea of where it is you want to go to help you pick the language that you want to choose.
And what have you found, I'd say maybe like, some people don't enjoy it, but your most enjoyable language, I guess? I know languages like Java can be very verbose.
Yeah.
So you did say Python is very lightweight, flexible. So what has been, I guess, your most enjoyable or go-to if maybe you're working on your own projects?
So Java, without a doubt.
Really? That would be
as verbose as they come. So the cool thing about Java, dude, is think of any big enterprise software.
Yeah.
There's some Java in there.
Yeah.
And there's some Java in there for a reason, right? People will make fun of it. They'll call it heavy. They'll say, it's old man's language. But, sometimes those geezers, they knew what they were doing.
That is true.
Ultimately, Java gives you an opportunity to build very robust, structurally intact and scalable software. can do that with the other stuff. But from what I've found is that if you want to build something that's, yes, it's strongly typed and it's verbose, but it's easier to read, you know?
Yeah.
Have you tried reading Python code? It's like a shorthand over shorthand over shorthand.
Yeah, because I think it's too flexible.
It's
sometimes.
so flexible. You know, in JavaScript, you don't even need semicolons. You don't
Yeah.
need types. You don't need identifiers. And it's too free. I don't like that.
Yeah, I think it's a good language to build discipline and a good
Exactly.
foundation. So yeah, that's quite
Exactly.
interesting. And actually, I wanted to circle back to like your field industry.
Yeah.
What is some of it? I guess because we're in an AI era where essentially we're seeing everything getting touched by AI. Everything has AI integrated to. What are the changes that you've seen kind of circulate or I'd say permeate through your industry or field?
Yeah. So the first of which is they finally gave us licenses for AI plugins into our IDEs. And what that effectively does is that it uses our internal code base to train itself. And then once it's trained itself, it has a bit more context on the application that you're building. So if you're adding new code, it's able to predict what it thinks you're about to write.
Oh.
And I mean, I would say it's maybe like 60% there, you know? At the simple stuff like build me a method that will do ABC. And ABC are simple instructions. It can do that. Like it'll generate the code for you.
So it's
So
like a
does it-
handy co-pilot.
Yeah,
So-
co-pilots.
It acts
Like-
as like an assistant.
Yeah, think GitHub Copilot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you know, it's able to generate a little bit more for you. But, you know, business case and what it is you're trying to build, that comes from you,
Yeah.
right? And then you drive it. And then it's able to write the small anyana test. And I've seen that sometimes it gets it wrong, you know, which is why I'm not shaken up by AI. But it's becoming an assistant, but it's very junior in its assistance that it provides so far.
And how open are, you know, like a lot of businesses to this kind of like AI assistance and embedding that into, you know, you guys as developers in the process?
Not very.
Really?
Yeah, not very, especially the established guys, the bigger guys.
Yeah.
So your banks, insurance firms, mining guys, they're
Still very threatened by it.
yeah, because I mean, there's a lot of risk that you're adopting with this thing. We've seen technology come and go, eh?
Yeah.
And imagine if you hopped on that bandwagon, let it mature, let it get hairy, and once you know what it looks like when you shave it.
I'm glad that was your reaction and not mine.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Very
Okay,
interesting.
that was an interesting.
Carry on.
Then you can trust it. All right. So
Very,
listen,
very interesting.
yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of young people, and I think it's such a shame that we've got you such a short, limited time. But I think this can be my closing question before I hand over to the guys to give you some closing questions. Young people are interested in the money part of the tech industry. And, you know, I've just seen on Twitter feeds, there's a lot of young people that sort of feel like Google has an idea, they send it over to like China or India, where like there's these coders in this small room, and they do the back end and they perfect it. And then like Google comes out and says, hi guys, we've got a new thing, you know, and the Google guys will get paid, you know, thousands and millions of dollars. And the kids in China just like trickle down, you know. So I think the question is twofold. Number one, what is the industry standard salaries? You don't have to tell us your own salary. In terms of like entry level, you know, as you progress, maybe after 5-10 years, and then you sort of senior level. And then what are your thoughts about that? Is it true that you only get paid your worth in tech if you're in the US? Or can you actually make it here? So yeah, that would be my last question.
Yeah. So, okay. So I'm going to start with the do you get paid your worth in tech in the US? I think the US guys get paid more because they have a bigger economy. You know, there's more money going around, and these companies can afford to spend more in a field that arguably makes them significantly more than what they're spending. You know, Google is a tech company. Why wouldn't they pay their best assets the most amount of money? So to just deflect quickly, I don't think they're sending that code to China. And I think maybe now, here's another passion of mine, politics. Why would America, one of America's biggest organizations, send intellectual property to China, which is diametrically opposed to the US? So.
They do manufacture iPhones in China, but I'll let it slide.
Yeah, but hardware, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
So you believe Americans are the best coders in the world?
no, absolutely not. Not a chance. That goes to India.
Okay, so
Right.
well, are they
But
not
yeah.
sending it to India and China?
So I think they are. I mean, consulting is a very common practice. I mean, even in my case, I'm a consultant for the bank that, we build software for. And I think maybe it makes sense for them to send them, to places like your India because they can afford to pay less. That's just the fact of the matter. But the guys that get paid more, listen, it like every other industry, based on your location and your experience is also a contributing factor. You will earn more than someone who's not in that place at that time. But I think the guys that do get paid good money do so well within their rights. I think they do good. They do good work. And then with the market salary question that you asked, I mean, it's a very good field. It's a very solid field. I mean, depending on the company that you work for, I think one thing I would recommend is to go look at Glassdoor. It's a website that's basically what happens is that people that work for these companies, they come out and they say, this is how much I'm earning. They stay anonymous, obviously, and it's a very great way to decentralize the money conversation. It's people who actually work these jobs. But you could find that an entry-level software engineering role, as in, I'm fresh out of uni, I've never worked a day in my life. You could earn like what? Cost to company 30,000 Rand. Depending on your deductions, that's 20 something odd grand. And for someone who's never worked before, that's quite decent. And you find that as you grow in your skill set, also depending on the company that you work for, and the qualifications that you get after you've started working, it can quickly pick up. You could double your salary in 3-4 years. But this is not something that I can say is going to happen. It depends. But what you find the market says is the salary for a person in the position you're in, it's 9 times out of 10 quite accurate. Yeah.
Okay. I guess my closing question would be, right now in 2025, so if you had no degree, no qualification, no network, just a laptop and internet, what would be how would you learn to code?
Definitely guys like your Udemy.
Okay.
So if all I have is a laptop and internet and I want to learn how to code, I'd probably go do a Udemy course on web development and I'd go knocking on doors asking to build people's websites. I think that's the easiest way to get into it. HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then it's 300 Rand a course, charge 10 grand for a website.
Cheers.
Leveraging AI or not?
I mean, if I'm a startup, I'm going to leverage everything I can.
Thank you for the
But,
honesty.
yeah. So, but pick and choose. There's a lot out there, but you don't necessarily have to use it all. Yeah.
Okay, and then my closing question, obviously, bearing in mind that we are in this artificial intelligence age, and we've mentioned, China, we've mentioned India, we've mentioned America as one of the best people or countries with, experts within the industry. Where do you see Africa evolving in the tech industry? Because that's a continent we haven't touched on, or African countries in general. How do you see us developing in this space?
I think Africa has nothing but upside. Like we have unlimited potentials, like as things stand, and you're gonna see a lot of the tech that grows within the African continent is gonna come because there's a desperate need due to the lack of government implementations. I think there was a period in my life, and this is a silly example, where the most used app that I had was Eskom's Push, because the government was failing. And I had no idea how to track these things. And that's just one case. They were just giving us information. And what did they do? They started plugging ads in there. And the company grew. But Minister Ramaphosa got his story straight, and now there's electricity. Think of all the countries in Africa that don't have established banking infrastructure. That's an opportunity for startups to get there and say, okay, we'll build peer-to-peer payment systems. Think of all the places where it's difficult to get electricity. A company could come in, build a solar farm, get an app as an interface between people, and that's how we get electricity to your grid. And that's just 2 ways. Your Ubers came up because people didn't enjoy the taxi experience. That's like, there's so much that Africa can go from. And I think, with the right amount of exposure, number one, to access to reliable internet and power, and, the resources like your computers and that sort of stuff, and a nudge, you're going to see incredible things. I just hope to see it in this lifetime.
Me too.
Yeah.
Wow. That was really an inspiring episode from us, from Cyber Digest. You're exactly what we're trying to promote in the whole world.
100%.
Young people going out there, changing stuff, challenging the status quo, and making it big in tech. So we wish you all the best. We're expecting something bigger than Meta, something bigger than Apple, something bigger than Nvidia. Just remember my shares. Remember where this all started from. But yeah, it's so beautiful seeing young guys. I mean, you're 25, Khotso's 25, Wandeler's 26. I'm 27, so like these young guys doing amazing stuff in tech. So yeah, well done. And we wish you all the best. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, we'll do this again for sure.
We should definitely
Absolutely.
when we have more time.
Yeah.
Maybe you should build some code in the next episode.
Nah.
Let us know if you should build code in the next episode. Just now he doesn't know.
Thank you so much, guys. Until the next episode.
Peace.